Good morning, it's October 10th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. When any politician runs for any office, they have two ways of doing it. If you're a first-time candidate, then you simply make a lot of promises, most of which you can't keep, and hope it attracts enough voters for you to win. A new candidate has to take this tack because they don't have a record to run on. But if you've been in politics and have been elected to an office, then you have a record, and the public better understands who you are and what you've really accomplished. And you can measure the promises you made when you first ran, decide if you lived up to them or just made empty promises. This is where we are in the current presidential race. Donald Trump is a known quantity since he served as president for 4 years. We know his platform, and we can decide if we agree or disagree with it. He cannot hide from his record. He can still make other promises, but we, the voters, can go back and look at what he actually accomplished. Then we come to Kamala Harris. She also has a record as a state attorney general, a senator, and for the past 4 years, the vice president. Since she recently admitted that she would not have done anything different than Joe Biden, we can look at his record. But being totally fair, we should focus on what she was tasked to do as the vice president. Donald Trump has called her out on this by simply asking her why she has not done the things she's now promising during the past 4 years. Her response was that in a sense she worked for Joe Biden. But remember, she said she would not have done anything differently. The answer is coming back to haunt her, and even Democrats are shaking their heads about her linking herself so close to Biden, who is woefully underwater in every job approval poll. But I want to be fair, so I'll look at some things that she was supposedly in charge of during the past 4 years. Now, I could start with the southern border, and that would be too easy. We all watch television, and we've seen the masses of migrants crossing the border each and every day. As the border czar, and she tries to deflect away from that title, she failed to go to the actual border during those years. She did a quick stop in El Paso, Texas, but never got close enough to the border to see what was going on. In the meantime, close to 10 million people have illegally crossed the border, straining the resources of states and cities across the nation. But I think we should take some other examples where Harris was directed to take the lead and see how that worked. The first one was using funds from the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that Biden sent to Congress and had it passed in 2021. There was $42 billion plus for Harris to promise to make high-speed internet available nationwide. Harris likes to say that, quote, President Biden and I made the largest investment in affordable high-speed internet in history, end quote. She often makes it sound like it was her money rather than that of the taxpayers. On June 26, 2023, she took part in a White House ceremony celebrating the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program known as BEAD, which was intended to bring internet service to unserved and underserved rural areas. In the 21st century, in America, high-speed internet is not a luxury, it's a necessity, Harris said. Every person in our nation, no matter where they live, should be able to access and afford high-speed internet, end quote. Well, in April of 2021, Biden addressed the Congress and said, quote, I'm asking the vice president to lead this effort, if she would, because I know it will get done. Harris nodded in agreement and said, of course. But here's the problem. The Broadband Equity Access Deployment Program hasn't accomplished anything. Nothing. In 2021, you were specifically tasked by President Biden to lead the administration's efforts to expand the broadband services to unserved Americans. That's according to a letter written by Republican senators last month. Quote, and at the time you stated, we can bring broadband to rural America today. Despite your assurances over 3 years ago, rural and unserved communities continue to wait for the connectivity they were promised. Under your leadership, not a single person has been connected to the internet using the $42.5 billion allocated for the BEAD program, end quote. These senators are correct. 3 years later, ground has not been broken on a single project in this program. The administration recently said construction won't start until next year at the earliest, meaning many projects won't be up and running until the end of the decade. Now, if you ask why, I can give you the answer. The massively expensive Harris-Biden project has broken down in the usual ways associated with the Democratic Party. The administration has imposed too many regulations on projects. It's insisted on the most expensive type of construction. It's insisted on climate change provisions. It's slowed the permitting process. It has decreed that union labor has to take precedence. And the administration has also stipulated hiring preference for underrepresented groups, including aging individuals, prisoners, racial, religious, and ethnic minorities, indigenous and Native American persons, LGBTQ, whatever persons and persons adversely affected by persistent poverty or inequality. No matter how you get something done in a timely manner, that's not it. Another project that you'll remember involves the administration's work on expanding the number of charging stations for electric vehicles. It's a super high priority for Harris, given that in 2019 she co-sponsored a bill in the Senate. She has a record there as well. That bill called to eliminate the manufacture of all gas-powered autos by 2040, and in her presidential race in 2020, she shortened that deadline to 2035. They're to be replaced by electric cars and trucks, which will of course need to be charged. A provision in the 2021 infrastructure bill, that same bill I discussed earlier, advocated and allocated $7.5 billion for the construction of around 5,000 electrical vehicle charging stations, which would include about 20,000 individual chargers. Well, in March of this year, the Washington Post reported that the administration has completed only seven, I'm telling you, new charging stations in the entire United States. The problems are in the usual things, with the project bogging down under bureaucracy imposed by the Biden-Harris administration. And this funding comes with dozens of rules and requirements, according to an expert who supports the program, as he told the Washington Post. This is Kamala Harris's record. She can't run and hide from this. This is what she was tasked to do by the administration, and none of it got done. So if you're looking for more government red tape, more programs that are promised but not delivered, then look at Kamala Harris and say, hey, she's the one. But if you're looking for somebody that will actually get something done and look at his record, I would suggest you take a look at Donald Trump. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, particularly on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Thank you.